2, 1.
Good evening. Time is now 6:30 p.m. I'm Chairman Tim Toth. I'm calling the Select Board Business Meeting to order this 22nd day of February 2023. Everyone, please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. I'd like to take a few moments to pay some respects and send some well wishes. Anybody who is not aware, former President Jimmy Carter, age 98, is home on hospice. His home parish is praying for him. We all know what he has done since he left the office of the presidency, and we wish well to his wife, Rosalind, and the entire family. On a local front, Bill Shields, WBZ TV4 weatherman, also passed unexpectedly this weekend. A Texan native, but a naturalized Bostonian who has been reviewed and followed for years by many. He's a great loss to our local area. I'd also like to just acknowledge anybody ill and afflicted and request a moment of silence for all, please. Thank you for that. For the record, I will state I will state for the record, we're not only being streamed live on TCTV Cable Station 8 and our YouTube web platform, but this evening's recording will be available for later viewing on our YouTube channel. If anybody's recording, you certainly have the ability and the right to do that, but please publicly disclose so we don't find you in violation of the Massachusetts wiretapping laws. Roll call this evening. We have the following board members, staff, and expected guests. Select Board Member Bennett is not going to be here this evening due to the weather. He's busy with his other job. We have Select Board Member Griffiths, Select Board Member Richard. My vice chair is participating remotely because business has him out of the local area. And of course, myself. We have the TA, the assistant TA, our TCTV staff. We have some guests in the audience. Our state senator, Ann Goby, our representative, Jonathan Zlotnick. We also have our director of DPW. We have the co-chair of our advisory committee. We have Andrea Lacasse from Ty and Bond. I hope I said that correctly, ma'am. And I believe we have Mr. Jordan Whitaker with us as well. He will be introduced momentarily. We do indeed have our quorum. As always, the agenda for this evening has been set no later than 48 hours out by law and is publicly available at our official source for town information, templetonma.gov. Although I have discretion as chairperson to add or remove from the agenda, it has been set to allow for time, personnel resources, and public awareness. I reserve the right to move agenda items around to best fit our business and guests. Thank you. I don't anticipate a bunch of that this evening. If it's your first time attending a select board meeting or any public meeting in the community, welcome. We're certainly glad that you joined us. Please be aware that we will do our best to address all agenda items adequately, all public concerns with due regard, all comments with dignity and patience. And I do ask, please, you do your best to show the same respects. A few comments for guests we have joining us remotely this evening, the Zoom rules of the road. Please use your video whenever possible. Although if you're waiting for an agenda item, it may be better to have video off. We have learned in the past that sometimes with video on, it does compromise sound quality. So we'll work with you through that. Use the mute feature when not speaking, although TCTV can place any or all on mute. It's easier if you control your own buttons. If you wish to see shared materials on the screen, please request that. We'll help everyone stay synchronized to help the viewing public. Only the chair and TCTV are able to share the content or screens. And I do apologize. We have one other guest with us this evening online. It's
Christine,
Kleinfeld.
what is it? Kleinfeld?
Caulfield.
Caulfield.
Christine Caulfield
My
from the
apologies.
Ahimsa Haven shelter.
No, de-letting. The de-letting inspector.
I'm
The
sorry,
waiting.
I got that wrong. We will come to that as we get to it. I apologize, ma'am.
That's
Letting.
okay.
She was the duetting.
Very good. Okay, now that we have the housekeeping notes out of the way, we will proceed into the actual substance of our meeting. Item number 3A, approval of minutes of prior meetings.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Vice,
I move to approve the minutes of February 28th, 2023 as presented.
Second,
I have a duly submitted request to approve minutes with multiple seconds. Any discussions, team? Second call, any discussions? Hearing none and having seen no errors or omissions, I will call this to a vote. Ms. Griffiths,
yes.
Ms. Richard,
Yes.
Mr. Curry,
Yes,
and I vote yes as well. Thank you, team.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Vice,
I move to approve the executive session minutes of April 28th, 2021, June 9th, 2021, August 25th, 2021, and September 22nd, 2021.
Second,
motion duly made and seconded.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
can you just add to be released to the public?
I'm sorry, I was going to make an amendment to
That's
and
okay.
release to the public. Sorry.
Okay, as amended for public release. Any discussions, team?
so quick, Holly, that catch us up on the executive.
No, I have a little.
We still have a little more, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And just for those following along in TV land and on our TCTV station, this is a formality and is a housekeeping. We are required when minutes are held not for public release to do periodic and systemic reviews. These ones we are publicly releasing as if the vote is in favor of that this evening. Any further discussions, team? Hearing none, we'll call this to a vote. Ms. Griffiths,
Yes.
Ms. Richard,
Yes.
Mr. Curry.
Yes,
I vote yes as well. Thank you, team. Up next, item 4, citizen input. Walking to the microphone.
In chat.
We've calmed things down.
Okay, hearing none, we will move on. Item 5A, new business, introduction of a new employee.
Mr. Chair and Board, I'd like to introduce you to Jordan Whitaker. He's the newest employee on the buildings and ground. He has a lot of experience and I think he's gonna be good on the building and grounds team.
Outstanding. Jordan, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the team.
Yeah,
Thank
welcome.
you.
Welcome addition.
Yes.
where's Jordan from?
Where are you from?
Originally from Acton.
Acton, Mike.
Oh, he said originally from Acton. Is he from Acton now?
No, I'm out of Athol now.
Oh, okay. Welcome to the team. Great.
In the area. Welcome to the area.
Yes, thank
Absolutely.
you. It's beautiful out here.
It is beautiful out here.
Lots of nature to take in to the north, south, east, and west.
I know, right?
Beautiful country.
And you get to meet your senator and rep all in the
There
same.
you go, right behind
Right
you.
behind you.
Cool is that?
We can do photo ops later if you'd like.
Very good. Well, again, welcome, Jordan.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Lamontagne, we have no appointments this evening.
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Item 5C, introductions of our legislative delegation. We have Senator Goby and Representative Zlotnick with us this evening. Welcome.
Yay.
Hi, John.
Hello.
I didn't know where to wave.
Yeah. Do they have the TV on in back of you?
Yeah,
That's the trick. That's the owl.
okay.
It's a hoot.
Well, good evening and thank you for having us. I know we like to try to get together with you at least once a year, although we've been here quite a bit.
It's
Over the last
great. I
week
really
since- and we
appreciate it.
enjoy that and welcome. It's great to have a new member. Congratulations to you. You'll enjoy, it's a great community. You'll have a good time working here and good folks that you work with. So we just wanted to kind of give you a little update what's happening at the State House. Obviously, we're getting into budget season with a new governor in place. The governor, when we have these kind of switches, they're allowed a little bit more time to present their budgets, and she was only sworn in January. So March 1st is when we are expecting the governor's budget. And so we'll have more to report after we see that. I do think that if you've heard some of the things that the governor has already talked about, we know that there's going to be an emphasis on housing for sure. That I expect she had mentioned in her remarks when she gave her inauguration speech about having free community college for people 25 and over. So we're expecting to see some sort of program about that. So that could have some interesting,
Nice.
well, of course, everything needs to be paid for somehow. But we'll see what she proposes for us on our level. I know John will talk about what's happening in the House. On the Senate level, we received our committee appointments a week ago. And I'm very pleased to say that the Senate President, we have a new committee at the State House strictly on agriculture that I'm the chair of. So I'm looking forward to that. In the past, agriculture had been lumped in with environment, natural resources, which was fine, except it kind of got lost. Because as you can imagine, the environmental bills have really kind of taken over. And it was really kind of taking a lot of the spotlight off of the agricultural issues. I had spoken with the Senate President back in November after the election. And I was actually trying to make a pitch for a rural committee to deal with all rural issues. So we did not get that, but we did get the agricultural committee, which I do think is a good step in the right direction. In addition to that, I am the vice chair of the higher education committee. I had chaired that last session. So I'm now in the vice chair role on that committee. I'm also on Senate Ways and Means and Joint Ways and Means Committee, as well as Veterans and Federal Affairs, Public Safety, Judiciary, and Small Business Community Development. So good committees. It will be very busy. We had to have all of our bills filed about the second week in January. I filed about 70 bills. Some of them, I think that's what happens after you've been in for a while. There's bills that continue to come along, some that don't pass the first time around. And I'm working this time around specifically with a couple of groups that I hadn't necessarily in the past filed legislation for. One is the State Police Association, and working on what would be an enhanced move over law. As you know, in Massachusetts, people are supposed to move over when they see someone in the breakdown lane, whether it be a state police officer that has pulled somebody over or assisting a motorist or a tow truck driver assisting someone. And as you know, people drive way too fast. They don't pay attention. We've had too many close calls. We've had too many injuries. We've had people killed because people not paying attention. And right now, the law for move over is really just a slap on the wrist. So I'm working with the state police to kind of enhance those penalties. And actually there would be, if it was your third offense, it would go to a criminal offense. And in fact, just this past weekend, a state police officer, he's doing okay, but was hit, same happened again. And the cruiser was pretty much totaled, and he's lucky to have get out of that fairly unscathed. But so anyway, that's kind of what's happening on my side with things. In the Senate, we will start our budget. Typically, it will be released about the second week in May. And then we always have debate the week before Memorial Day. Turn it over to my good friend, Representative Zlotnick.
Excellent. So the House also received their committee assignments last week. For the upcoming session, I'll be serving as the vice chair of the Committee on Community Development and Small Business. I'm also a member of the Committee on Labor and the Committee on Public Safety, in addition to the vice chairmanship. Like Ann said, the budget is a little bit delayed this year because of the change in administration. The House gets the first crack at it. We get our version of the budget released about the second week of April, and then conclude our work on it by the end of April. So as always, we'll be in touch when that comes out to see if there's any tweaks or anything else we can try and slide in there to benefit the town, like we've tried to do in the past. And then I did receive, I received your letter. Before I get into the contents of it, I did want to say that the mail system at the State House is notoriously slow. So I actually only received your letter a few days ago. So I would recommend, I also have a mailbox in Gardner City Hall at my district office. I get things much quicker there than in Boston. By the time it goes through the mailroom and finally gets its way to me, sometimes it can be several weeks later. But one of the items that you had asked me to look at and keep an eye on was the housing initiative that the governor teased out in an interview last month. While we're waiting on I would say the governor to elaborate on her comments and what that might look like. My sort of indication on that is that what she was referring to is kind of a continuation of an initiative and a program that Governor Baker had started. And when the governor referenced utilizing public land for housing developments, the previous governor and the program that's already in place was speaking specifically about state-owned land that was nearby or adjacent to MBTA stops or commuter rail stops or the like closer to the city. We haven't received any additional guidance or indication from the governor that that's been expanded or changing, but we will keep an eye on that given your concern. But that is where that stands right now. The other issue was pilot payments with payment in lieu of taxes for state-owned land. This is an issue that I've been working on for a while. Ashburnham, which I've was in my previous district as well as my current district, has quite a bit of state-owned land. So this is something we've been trying to work on. One, to get the numbers up in general, but also look at the way that those payments are distributed. Because my argument is that I think rural communities that have a greater percentage deserve more than other communities that already have more money and have other sources of revenue and don't have so much land put aside in either conservation or state-owned. It is something that we've been working on and something hopefully that a reinvigorated rural caucus can get into the nuts and bolts of it. But it is one of the issues that the math isn't in our favor, because the communities that tend to be most affected by this are also the ones that are the least populated and have their reps and senators spread out the most in central and western Mass. So we don't have an easy time getting the votes when it comes to either upping those payments or reforming the way that that program works. But it is something that's on our radar and something that we're working on.
And just to piggyback on that, John had mentioned, we do have a rural caucus in the State House that we're both very involved in. There's also a rural policy commission, and that commission is made up of different folks from around the state, mainly in Franklin County, Berkshire County. And this issue of pilot, that is one of their number one issues. So that is something that commission is also pushing for as well. And we obviously hear from your town administrator, and he's always very good about keeping us informed. And there are things that we should have on our radar screen as well.
One of my hopes is that during COVID, there were a lot of people who came from the eastern part of the state to the central and western part of the state and enjoyed the immense state property that exists for recreation and other activities. And that actually did bring this issue a little bit more to the forefront in terms of just awareness, because constituents of our colleagues further to the east were the ones who were coming out here to enjoy that space during the height of COVID. And it did raise awareness again of how much state-owned land is within the jurisdiction of these municipalities out here.
Thank you for that. As always, the pleasure. We're always very grateful to have you take some of your time out of your busy schedules, relay the annual messages and all the wishes from the legislative team on Beacon Hill. On behalf of Julie, Jeff, Mike, Terry, myself, Adam, and the team, we look forward to another prosperous and challenging year ahead. You both mentioned the Rural Caucus. Mike and I both attended a session at the MMA conference, and that was the crux of our select board subgroup of the MMA, and we spent a good hour and a half in there and walked away with a lot of interesting information. And yes, absolutely, the central and western part of the state are underrepresented. We know that. And we looked at the rural term in the northeast corner of the state and some other areas as well that people don't tend to clump together. It's not all inside the 495, the 128 belt loop. We're fully aware of that. We'd like to quickly highlight some of our successes, challenges, and requests for assistance. Since we saw you last, on our list of successes, we received a $35,000 grant to purchase cemetery management software that was awarded to the town through the municipality's vulnerability program. Adam and I ventured out to Pittsfield a year ago, December, and received that from the lieutenant governor at the time. We made 3,800 COVID-19 test kits available via state and local partnerships, as well as a smart implementation of ARPA funds that the town received. Very happy to have our legislative delegation present when we opened the newest green space in Baldwinville, our River's Edge Conservation Area in May, and we're very appreciative of everybody who stayed behind and helped us get the plants in. It was a nice day. Senator Goby, you were key in helping us secure a grant to fully fund the purchase of a utility vehicle that is currently serving and is expected to serve the fire department in town for many years to come. We certainly appreciate that. We've had special legislation approved for a demolition fund, paving the way to fund the raising of fire damage and otherwise condemned buildings. With the help of many stakeholders, we published our comprehensive emergency management plan, which put the stress test on during the recent cold snap a few weeks back. We had a soft activation of our EOC. We had all the players ready to go. And our CERT team even came in the first night, and we had the warming station and shelter manned. Fortunately, nobody used it, but we were sitting there ready to rock and roll. So as the old saying goes, it takes a village, and Templeton certainly has the people in the village to take care of the village. We're grateful for all of them. Like every other community, we have challenges. We're still facing the supply chain issues. Availability of skilled trades continues to impact many of the projects we have in the works, including a roof replacement, finalization of completing the kitchen at our senior community center. We realize many of our needs could be satisfied by locating and competing for grant opportunities. We did fund a full-time grant writer position, but correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. LaMontagne, so far we've had no applicants.
We didn't receive any formal application. We since reposted the position. So we're hopeful that we'll get that filled. That was a priority of this board, and
Absolutely a priority. We're hoping to get that one filled.
so we have it
It's gonna be
reposted,
huge.
and we're hopeful that we'll get somebody. That was the board prioritized that in the goal setting, and we went out and the town meeting supported that at the last fall town meeting. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you. Both a blessing and a challenge. We recently received an earmark of $200,000 for economic development purposes. Mike, this is your cue. Yay!
Hey.
Yay. We have reinvigorated our Economic Development Industrial Corporation, our EDIC, to find ways to invest this money and create further opportunities. And we're looking forward to hearing that board's report back to us. Requesting for assistance. We invite you both to stay for approximately 20 minutes tonight as Ty and Bond discusses our Main Street Bridge project cost. This is a priority for us as it's our main street, supports one of our largest business partners, and is the carrying conveyance for a vital water main here in town. School district has struggled with the loss of ESSER funds, still in need of assistance of a fully funded district transportation reimbursement. It was alluded that the governor has that as a priority to fund that fully, and fingers crossed that we'll see that come to fruition here very shortly. Additionally, the school district has many capital items that can no longer be delayed for the rainy day in the middle and the high school roof, their varsity playing field and track, and a few others. will have their formal budget presentation on the 15th of next month. And we humbly ask your continued support for our public safety teams so we can bring our departments to full strength. So in a nutshell, that's our past year. And as always, we're very grateful because most of the times when you come, you bring us those
Yeah.
big checks. We say, thank you, thank you, thank you.
That's
Well,
not,
thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Rice, go ahead.
You know, and we had so many more successes. It's just difficult. We know, we borrow your time. We've had a lot of great things. We work very well as a team. You can see I'm still here. It turned out I was a write-in candidate and I couldn't say no. So I
We didn't let
appreciate that. And then finally, we don't just try and get you to bring that extra large checkbook. You do a lot for us. Not only do you come to our events, both of you, but you work on a lot of hard policy. I was really excited as you were running down your list of committee appointments. Many of the things that Tim was just talking about, your assignments go right in line with those. So we're really excited about that, and we're very excited for your new year. So here's to a great kickoff.
Thank you for that, Mike.
Well, thank you. We look forward to the presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Andrea, this brings you up. Welcome.
Pleasure to be here as always. My name is Andrea Lacasse. I am a senior engineer with Ty and Bond. I'm a bridge engineer. And I am here to present on the status of the Main Street over Otter River Bridge. I've been involved with the project since the outset. So Ty and Bond initially conducted an alternatives analysis, looking at different approaches to replacing, rehabilitating the structure, as well as the water main that it supports. And we've settled on a bridge rehabilitation that involves a complete deck replacement, some steel repairs. I can just keep talking. As well as the water main replacement that's going to be supported within a utility bay underneath the bridge. Currently, the water main is supported on the sidewalk, and I'll show some pictures of that within the presentation. I'm also going to touch on the importance of this bridge to the community.
Mike, I'm not sure what happened. We lost your second slide. He's clicking feverishly. I can see it.
And you can see it on the space time.
That's the first page. Get that.
Yep.
So currently we're at about 75% of design. We met with the town back in November, and we at that time presented 25%. So that's the design concept. We were presenting the design approach, seeing if there was any feedback from the town. We collected that feedback. We also submitted to Mass DOT to get their buy-in for our design approach. We received their feedback, incorporated that. So now we've advanced the design documents to 75%. This includes calculations, drawings, specifications, updated the opinion of probable construction cost, as well as the project schedule. So right now we're looking for feedback from the town, which we will incorporate and submit to Mass DOT for initial Chapter 85 review. So that's where we are right now with the status of the project. So this is the rough agenda. I'll talk about the bridge itself, the scope of the rehabilitation, the opinion of probable construction costs, as well as the project schedule. So just a little bit about the bridge, where it's located in town, and just some information about the bridge within town. So it's located near the center of Baldwinville, which is a village within Templeton. The population of Templeton is, according to the 2020 census, 8,149 people, and that's trending upwards. So as you touched on earlier, people are relocating out of the city. They're coming to towns like Templeton to have access to more open space. And so you're going to see that population continuing to trend upwards. So you're going to have higher demand on your infrastructure as well. This is also, oops, sorry, can you go back one slide? Thank you. The bridge is also located right next to Seaman Paper Company, which is a major employer within the county. I think they're the largest employer within the county. Within Templeton, they employ 60 employees. And I did speak with people at Seaman Paper to talk about a temporary bridge closure, but also to understand what it would mean to their business if the bridge was closed, if the construction wasn't funded. So it would disrupt deliveries. It would be an inconvenience for employees that work there. And there are also concerns about response times from safety, whether that's fire or police, should something happen. So Seaman Paper, they're a 4th generation family-owned business. This is the type of business you want to be supporting within your town. They're a taxpayer, they're a water user. And businesses like this rely on infrastructure. They're looking for that infrastructure to be consistently there and to be in good shape. And that also, the better your infrastructure draws in other businesses as well as keeping businesses in town. Okay, please advance the slide. So the bridge was originally constructed in 1938, so it is presently 85 years old. A lot of bridges designed at that time were designed for a service life of 40 years, so it's given you all it has, and it needs a facelift. In March 2019, the sidewalks were closed by Mass DOT. They performed a bridge inspection, and due to the deteriorated condition of the girders, the fascia girders and the first interior girders, and I'll show you some photos of that, they closed the sidewalks down and they reduced the bridge to a single lane of traffic. The existing water main that supported on the sidewalk was installed in the 1950s. And it's time for the water main to be replaced as well. And so we had, as I mentioned, analyzed bridge rehabilitation alternatives. We analyzed water main replacement alternatives. And the timing works out really well from a cost perspective and utilization of resources to do this construction at the same time. Please advance the slide. A little bit more about the bridge. So the average daily traffic is about 3,046 vehicles. So Mass DOT does traffic studies. They collect that information. So we project over the lifespan of the bridge, which is the service life of the bridge, we approximate to be 75 years, that in the design year, within 75 years, the traffic count may be as high as 6,500. That's in line with your population growth. So you want to be maintaining this infrastructure to accommodate this higher demand as well. And also to note, if the bridge was closed, it's about a 1.9 mile detour. So it's the cost to rehabilitate the bridge, but also understanding the implications of closed infrastructure to a community. So this is economy. It affects the economy. This is extra miles that need to be driven. That's gas, that's wear and tear on a car. It's more mileage for a business that's trying to distribute their products if they have to drive around, and also response time during emergencies. So there are economic implications to closed infrastructure as well. Next slide, please. Here are some photos of the existing conditions. So this is what you don't see underneath the bridge. You have deteriorated concrete where the reinforcing steel has corroded and it basically pops off the concrete cover on the bottom, which protects the reinforcing steel. This happens as the steel corrodes and expands. And this is a photo of the deteriorated beam end where you have 100% section loss at the bearing. And so that load path basically has to find a way around, and you'll actually get settlement in the ends of your beams if this isn't addressed. So Mass DOT closed down the sidewalks and diverted traffic to the center, focused traffic in the center, and pedestrians as well. So this bridge rehabilitation addresses the deck, it addresses the deteriorated beams. I'll get into more of those details as we continue. Please advance the slide. So this is the current configuration. You can see the Jersey barriers have been placed to restrict traffic to within this corridor. You can see the water main located on that sidewalk, and pedestrians still have access to see the west sidewalk and then between the Jersey barrier and the curb on the east side. So it was originally 2 travel lanes and it's reduced to 1 right now. This is alternating traffic. Okay, please advance the slide. This is the water main that's presently on the bridge. So it's in poor condition and it needs to be replaced. And also having a water main on a sidewalk is also less appealing. It's susceptible to damage from vehicles. It's also susceptible to people, I guess, walking by could damage it, tagging it. It's available. So by tucking it underneath the bridge, it protects the water main from vehicles and vandals. Yeah, and the exposure as well, because it's exposed to the elements, will accelerate deterioration. So we're proposing to tuck that up under the bridge. Please advance. Right, this is what we're proposing to do. So we're proposing a rehabilitation that will offer 75 years of future service life, reusing the existing substructure elements. We're going to update the bridge rails, so you'll have up-to-date standard deck, bridge rails, sidewalk, and steel girders as well. So yeah, HL 93 is today's design load standard, so you will have no restrictions on traffic access to the bridge or truck loading. Please advance. Please advance. Yep, thank you. So as I mentioned, it's a complete deck replacement that's designed to the HL 93 design load. That's today's design standard. We're also going to make the beams composite with the deck. It just means that there's a positive connection between the deck. So it just adds strength to the beams. New sidewalks, new bridge rail and highway guard transitions, new steel framing. So we're replacing all of the diaphragms. We're performing select beam replacements. 4 of the beams will be completely replaced. 1 beam will have a repair to one of the ends. And we're also proposing to abate and repaint the beams that are to remain. Please advance the slide. We're also reconfiguring the abutments. So by doing this, we're basically eliminating bridge joints. This provides for a longer service life. It reduces maintenance and it protects the bearings by limiting access with the de-icing salts that you're using on the road to the beam ends and to the bearings. So the beam ends will be encased in concrete with the new end diaphragm configuration, and that will protect your bearings. It will protect your beam ends. And we're also putting new waterproofing around the backside. We are slightly reducing the elevation of the bridge seat, which is what the bearing sits on, to accommodate for new elastomeric bearings. So that's updating from just a steel slide bearing to an elastomeric bearing, which is the newer technology. It allows for rotation and sliding to account for thermal contraction and expansion of the steel girders themselves. And it provides you with new bridge seats and back wall, which the concrete's prone to absorbing salts from de-icing procedures in the past. So you're really getting almost a new structure while taking advantage of the substructure that you have that is still in good condition. So as I mentioned, abutment reconfiguration, new elastomeric bearings, no bridge joints, and the new end and intermediate diaphragms. Okay, please advance. The water main will be replaced. It will be placed within a utility bay. This will be a new pre-insulated 8-inch ductile iron pipe, and as well as new ductile iron pipe along the approaches. So this work will extend a little beyond the limits of the bridge. This allows all of this work to occur under one environmental permit rather than having to get a second environmental permit, come back, mobilize a new construction crew. So by putting it within this utility bay, there's less exposure to the elements. There's more protection tucked up within the steel. The rollers of these supports allow for expansion and contraction of the pipe independently of the structure itself. Please advance the slide. So presently at 75% design, the opinion of probable construction cost is at $3.57 million. That includes a rough 30% contingency still at this time. As we receive comments back from Mass DOT and we finalize our design, that contingency will continue to go down as we have a better understanding of how the design is advancing. So the base bid right now for the bridge and the water main is 2.5 million, with these contingencies added upon that. And engineering construction phase services, that includes administration and also includes part-time construction observation. I believe we were at 3.5 million with the alternatives analysis. So we're still right around where we were. We've actually added a little bit of work as well. So it's a good value. Okay, please advance. I believe this is my last slide. So the construction schedule, design and permitting is ongoing. We're presently at 75% construction. We're about to submit, or design rather, we're about to submit to Mass DOT for Chapter 85 review. We expect a couple of rounds with Mass DOT as we get feedback from them and we take their comments and implement those. So we're really looking to get this out to bid in the fall, which is great because then you put it out to bid, you award a contract by like October, November. It gives the contractor time to provide their submittals and get ready to mobilize first thing in the spring. That's really what we want, is to take advantage of a full construction season. So we're looking for that mobilization in March of next year so that they can have substantial completion by the end of fall, beginning of winter. So we're on target right now with our schedule. Provided timely review from third parties. That includes permitting and Mass DOT. Okay.
There's just a couple of thoughts to give to the board that might also be on the Templeton's evacuation route going to the state road. Crossing through that. And once the bridge is done, I plan on probably using chapter 90 funds to pick up the sidewalk from the bridge to meet state road sidewalk and get that side all done.
Yes, the town did identify that this was an evacuation route, so we've taken that into account in some of our design details.
Thank you for that, Mr. Zuzik. Very comprehensive, very well thought out. Thank you for the presentation. I have no questions. Team, anybody?
I'm just curious as to the iron pipe. Is that more under water department jurisdiction? Is it tying into other iron pipe? Is the pipe going to be conducive with the other pipes that are already in the?
Tie back into the original water line that runs meets that.
So it's all iron?
It's
It'll be-
ductile iron, yeah.
Ductile line.
Yep.
Right now, I believe it's asbestos. Running down to it, it might be iron going over the bridge.
Yeah,
But it'll be the newest type of pipe.
and it's compatible with the old pipes. It won't change the
Oh, they
water
might.
chemistry.
After-
Yeah, I just curious of the water chemistry. Once it flows from that section to the older sections, is there going to be a chemistry change? Sometimes that's an issue.
As a bridge engineer, I cannot really answer your question, but I will say that of all the bridge crossings that I've done, and I've done several, the TR Flex, they're all ductile iron that go in. So I can get a better answer for you, but I'm gonna say that being today's design standard, I would have to imagine that it is compatible and that they would have thought of that, but I'll get you a definite answer. I'll send it to Adam and Bob and they can forward to you.
Much
Okay?
obliged.
Mhm.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I just want to also know on the alternatives analysis, when the board chose the design, we proceeded forward with the selection of the board wanted to proceed with. And then for the water main, that was the water department and commission that ultimately decided how they wanted to approach that. So we went with the board's decision on the bridge. And then the water department provided us their analysis for the water main. And we made that all come together for the project.
So it
And
sounds safe.
it was a collaborative approach
Yeah.
between the two departments. I just want to note that, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, the collaboration is key, and as was presented, doing these projects simultaneously and concurrently actually does make sense and is a cost-saving measure in and of itself.
Yes, yeah, and I am the bridge engineer, but I'm also the project manager overseeing the whole project, but we do have a design team of water engineers designing the water main side of it, working with the water department, not the bridge engineers, so there are
great job.
qualified people working on it.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
And also, if Andrea, you could also mention too, so by the time we're done with this, we'll be at 100% design and be ready with the bid documents, all included from when we contracted with Ty and Bond to do this project. So we have enough funds available.
Yep, yeah, our current
Just so
contract
folks
gets us
aware.
through bidding phase services, so you need the funding for construction to carry it beyond there. So, we'll get chapter 85 approval. You will have a drawing set ready for bidding and we can carry you through bidding, but you really need that funding for construction to carry the project through.
Hey, Mike, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. For our situational awareness, makes it kind of, ties brings it back around. Number one, Time Bond, what a fantastic job on these documents and where we're at right now. Really great job. Adam, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm gonna ask for just a swag. What are our possible funding sources, or what percentage do you think we could fund at this point of the proposed 3.5?
Right now, we ultimately need that the governor to release the funds of the 3 million. We have about roughly uncommitted of ARPA right now. We have about $1.8 million.
And that's without, okay.
That's where we're at right now.
No, that's a great answer. I just wanted to be able to have that discussion right after, we saw the Time Bond presentation in terms of trying to fulfill expectation on how we're going to pay for this much required this project. I do sit on the Capitol. I would love us to be able to have some flexibility with that ARPA funds rather than 100% commit everything to it. But I realize that it's got to be one of our greatest sources of funding that we have. So I guess we'll just stay tuned and see what we can pull. Again, thanks for that presentation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great job.
Great, thank you.
Safe travels.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea.
Moving along, action item 5E. The opioid settlement funds. We have in our packet some information. For one thing, would you like to present that?
I will present this, Mr. Chair. The board signed off on the J&J distribution of funds. What happened was now there's all these other settlements with Teva, Elegant, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart. This allows me to proceed forward and sign these opiate settlement funds to come into the town. It works out because we didn't finalize the whole GIMA agreement yet. We'll have a conversation with Representative Zlotnick and we'll proceed accordingly. But this will just be available resources to the town, dedicated. You'll also, on a different note, we plan to have some articles for the annual town meeting to create a stabilization account for these opiate funds. But we'll have that discussion on another note in the future. But I think this is nice that we received additional opiate settlement. But I just need your authorization to proceed forward to sign these.
Thank you for that. And we did invite Representative Zlotnick to stay, but I know he had another commitment and was leaving here to get on another Zoom call. So the work never ceases.
He did want me to send them the Main Street Bridge slides. So.
Mr. Chairman, I move to authorize the town administrator to sign the participation form to sign on to receive the funds for the opioid settlement funds.
Second that motion.
I have a duly made motion and a second. Any
This
discussion?
is huge. This is on my plate. I like this.
Second call, any discussions? Hearing none, we'll bring this to a vote. Ms. Griffiths,
Yes.
Ms. Richard,
Yes.
Mr. Curry,
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Thank you, team.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along. Discussion, Ahimsa Haven Animal Shelter lease.
Mr. Chair, I have Mr. Souza coming up here. He presented what you have in front of you. You have a lease agreement that is basically on a month-to-month basis right now. And this was signed a while back. And at the very least, I think having a discussion on this item. Mr. Souza came into my office with an idea on proceeding forward. at the very least, I think it's worthy of a discussion by the select board and Mr. Sozik to discuss moving forward. We're gonna maintain this lease, how we're gonna proceed, what our options, and just to have that discussion and just to get an idea of what the board's thinking and what Mr. Sozik's plan is. I mean, as you all know, his the Department of Public Works facility is right there. So you have a relatively good facility at this location. I believe it's a $200 a month lease that's currently it's been a month to month since 2013. And Mr. Sozik, if you want to present to the board, they have the lease in front of them and an update relative to this.
Good evening, guys. I don't know the exact history of the shelter itself. I know it is a town-owned building. We did put a new roof on it a couple of years ago that the town paid for. There is currently town water running to the building, which I'm paying through the DPW because the line is tapped into the DPW's water service. There is a E1 pump out in front. They pay a minimum to the sewer department on a discharge. They take care of the electrical. As Adam stated, there is really no binding contract at the moment. And from what I hear, it's $200 a month to the town. Where Templeton's growing and my office is growing and is really not big enough. And I don't see any big $1 million future plans for a new DPW garage. My thoughts are taking my existing space and making an actual locker room for the guys and a break room. It'll be all on the same level. And give me room if I move the office over there with some expansion for our existing operation, along with even room for probably in the future for parks and recs. The building is a solid, beautiful building. It's sound. There will be some interior work that would need to be done, which could be done between the DPW and Monty Tech. It would probably take a year to do it, piecemealing it, not all at once, is my anticipation. And I just wanted to present that to you and see if you had any consideration in such a operation changing the rear of the DPW. It's the same address. It'd just be front and rear as far as address numbers.
Thank you for that. A little bit of the history of the building. That was done when we had our own in-town animal control officer. And it was decided to move the shelter from a private residence and their farm to that location. A lot of the material and supplies were donated by Power and Light and other various entities around the community. A lot of it was volunteer labor. So yes, it is town owned, but it was a very minimal expense as it was erected. And my fellow board members, if I'm misspeaking, please correct me. So yes, it's a small amount on the lease, but it was really minimal cost to us to erect it. So it is a steady income stream, but as you said, it is a very dated lease.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Mr. Rice.
were any of the existing Ahimsa staff invited to the meeting tonight?
Yes, we have.
I believe that they were. Adam shaking his head no.
They weren't invited.
They
Okay.
weren't invited because this is a discussion. We're not taking any
Okay.
action.
Okay.
Okay. I would like to understand what the throughput, I think Ahimsa just deals with stray cats. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
All right. I'd like to understand like what their operation is. I was reviewing the lease. I did have questions on, were they complying with it? I certainly don't look at $200 as any kind of, it's more of like they pay something to be able to occupy the space, but otherwise, we're not, trying to be greedy. We're not, certainly not benefiting or trying to benefit from having them as a renter. So I looked at the lease, but I didn't understand that Bob's was looking to convert the use. And Bob, possibly you could answer the question. I hear that you're looking to take over some space. Are you proposing to basically kick the Ahimsa? It's a strong term. Are you proposing to move the Ahimsa operation out of that building? And have you had any discussions with them?
No, I have not. I had a discussion with Adam and Holly. I mentioned this in the past few years off and on. And just the thoughts of it and being more functional in the DPW, it just makes a lot of sense for the office and for the public, and just to have the space and create some good environment for the highway crew and buildings and grounds, giving them some space because things are very tight over there. I haven't discussed it with anyone from the shelter. I'm proposing the idea to you folks. I'm not looking to throw them out tomorrow. I mean, even if you had any consideration of this, I mean, if it was a thought, I'm not looking to push them. If they needed 6 months or a year, if you had considerations of it, I'm not looking to be the blunt, hurry up and get out type deal.
I understand. I'd like to know what their impact, like, would they be shocked? Would they say, no, we're decentralized. This is one of many locations that we wind up having operations. I know they run a storefront. My kids have volunteered there. We've got at least one rescue cat from their operation in the storefront in Winchendon. I would like to know what the impact would be. I certainly don't disagree with you, Bob, that it's tough you have a requirement, it's tight. I know you've had plumbing issues, all kinds of stuff. I'd like to give you a better space. And it is tough to be able to ask the town to fund something that would be adequate, a new facility for you. I wouldn't want to completely take that off the table. If it was possible, even if it was painful, I would love to be able to get you a new garage, new space or otherwise. But I'm not saying that it's not a bad idea what you proposed. I just would like to know what the impact would be to Ahimsa before having any kind of, timeline discussions or otherwise. I didn't have any other questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that. Go ahead.
May I propose to the board, based on the concerns, what we can do is keep this for the next agenda, and what I'll do is I'll invite them to the next meeting as well, so we can continue the discussion. And then that way, Bob share with you what his thoughts were, then we could figure out what those other concerns that came up with the shelter there and hear those as well. That way the board has all the information from the town as well as the shelter, if that's appropriate.
Adam, I think that's Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I think that's a good idea, but in the interest of time, rather than trying to go by our meeting schedule, if someone on the board felt so compelled to have those discussions, have some kind of, realization. I think all we want to know is impact or otherwise. Otherwise, Bob stated his intentions and his ideas, but to have the conversation, at least have somebody from the board be a part of that, and then we can come back possibly for action. Is anyone on the board so moved to do that? I am not volunteering myself.
I can certainly take that on.
I
think it's a
appreciate that,
great
Tim. That way you
idea.
can have that, we wind up having consensus and say, all right, Tim's gonna at least have the discussions, and then you can come back, state the findings, and then we can possibly make up our mind in that, in that meeting.
Clarification.
But
So just for clarification, so what you're looking at, so having the chair, Bob, I'll be involved as well. Go and have the discussion, then take it back for an action item.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, putting, not that you had a bad idea. I just, if we try and do it during a meeting, I don't want to put that person on the spot, especially if they come back and say, oh my gosh, this is the only, location we have, thousands of cats are going to go homeless. I don't want to put someone, on camera to do that. I'd rather have it a little bit de-escalated.
Understood.
Yep, it also compresses the timeline. We're not waiting for 2 weeks for our next scheduled meeting. We can have this discussion up front,
Agreed,
have everything front loaded, rack stacked, and then we can present.
agreed.
Sounds like a plan.
Thank you for that, Mike.
Sure. Thank you.
No, it's discussion only. There's no motion. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
We'll
Thank
take
you,
this under
Bob.
advisement.
Mr. Chairman, can I just make a quick statement on this?
Go ahead.
As well? Mike, I have to agree with your statement that we should never take it off. And I say this because I have a history with having conversations in regard to a new DPW, either location or a new building. We should never take that off the table for futures. The
I agree.
possibility is out there. And I
wish I could give
absolutely-
everyone everything that they wanted.
Yeah, I
as money
absolutely,
as
we
they-
looked at this a few years back with, different board, people sitting on the board and so forth. Just merging a couple of departments and having a fantastic facility for them to share. So I hate to see that ever go off the table. We should always keep that in the back of our minds because it's definitely needed for DPW. I've been in that facility. I'm surprised we have a building permit at this point. I have to be honest.
Thanks, Julie.
Yeah, thank you.
It is small, it's modest, and we're getting the job done, but there's always room for improvement.
Absolutely.
Mike, I have to agree with you, but sitting from both your capital seat and your EDIC, it's definitely looking forward. Where are we now, but where do we want to go? Absolutely. You and I both are very familiar with the brainstorming ideas and the sticky notes all over the board or the wall. This is definitely a sticky note that's going to stay there for a while. We're going to keep staring at it, and it's going to be staring us in the face as well.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you for that. Moving along, old business, a Scout Hall update. Christine, welcome.
Thanks for
Hi.
hanging with us. I hope you had some entertainment tonight.
Bob, welcome back. Can't wait for your update.
Long time no see, sir.
Good night.
Good night, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Christine, you're on mute.
So.
There we
on
go.
Scout-
How's that?
Good.
We can
Better?
hear you.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect.
Is she speaking or?
I think Adam might have had some questions. Do you think that's right?
Christine, if I can, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
What we have is we're doing a Scout Hall update. This was a request of one of the board members. We're just providing an update, and then Bob has a plan. So if you just kind of want to go over the fact when you first went out there, and then now that they're in compliance, maybe you start and then Bob could jump in, if that's appropriate to through the chair.
Actually, can we
Okay,
introduce herself?
sure.
So,
Christine, can I interrupt you for a moment? Can I just
Of
have you
course.
introduce yourself so everybody knows who you are and
Yes.
what we're representing? Thank you.
Sure. My name is Christine Caulfield, and I'm a lead paint inspector with Caulfield Environmental. I was hired by the town to do a lead paint inspection at, I think you call it the Scout Hall. Is that right? 135 Patriots Road. And so I went there back in May of last year, May 31st, 2022.
And I did an inspection on the interior of the building as well as the outside. I found some extensive lead paint to be present inside, in walls, window trim. I'm looking at the report right now, door trim. And a little bit on the exterior, on the side D, which is the right side of the building, there was a little bit of lead going into a basement. So I wrote up the report, and then I believe the town got bids from different de-leading firms to de-lead the project. And Troy Bascom of Bascom De-leading was hired. And he went in with his crew and they de-leaded the interior as well as the exterior of that building. And I went back in on, let's give you a date, just this month, February 7th, for the reinspection of the building. And actually I ended up going there twice. I went there once for the reinspection and I collected dust wipes and I send them to a lab for analysis. And they have to come in below a certain threshold in order to be considered clean enough before I can write a certificate. The first set of dust wipes, we had a failure. So I came back again. I was there February 1st and we had a failure in the dust wipes then. I returned on February 7th for another set of dust wipes and those did pass. And then I was able to write a letter of full de-leading compliance. I think that what was alarming was that when I wrote the letter of full de-leading compliance, there's a page that I include with that, and it's called Fact Sheet on Maintaining Compliance. And the State Department of Public Health writes these forms, and I fill them out. And on the fact sheet for maintaining compliance, it says this property, let's see if I can get you the exact verbiage. Oh, in a huge bold font, it says, your unit is not lead free. And I think that that was a little alarming to people when they saw that. They were like, oh, we just spent all this money. What do you mean Scout Hall's not lead free? Well, in Massachusetts, we don't have a lead free certificate. We only are saying that the property was made lead safe at the time of my visit. And the reason we don't have a lead-free certificate is because I don't know what's under the vinyl siding. I don't know what's under the hardwood floor, what's on the subfloor. I don't know what's under carpet. I don't know what's behind the chalkboards there. And so because I can't see everything, we can never say that something's lead-free. It's simply lead-safe. But the concern was, since it's not lead-free, can the town bring students in, I think it was from Monty Tech, to do some work in that building since it's not lead-free? And my answer to that was yes, you can bring people into the building to do work, but we do have to let the instructors or the teachers know that it's not lead-free, and they still have to use lead-safe work practices when working in that building, because we don't want the kids to get, poisoned from lead dust. So hopefully that kind of brings you all up to speed where we are. It is in compliance, it passes, but it's not lead-free. How's that?
Thank you for that.
So basically, can we compare it to where we're sitting right now? Because this is not lead-free, correct?
So like Christina said,
This building is not lead-free.
It's not lead-free unless you pretty much got the whole building. It's lead safe.
Same as this, it's lead safe.
So I believe the gentleman from Monty Tech, his name was Ryan. I did reach out to Ryan in an email. I haven't got a response yet to re-invite him and visit the job again.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if they'll take the job, because when he was out, when we met the first time, he was talking, even if they drill a hole, it's creating a dust. You're breaking through the lead.
Right.
Correct.
So I haven't heard a response from them. So worst case scenario is the subcontractor. It might have to go back out to bid again for the work to be done.
Mhm.
Like the local subcontractor that I'm using at Gilman Waite, he bidded that over there.
Mhm.
He's gonna bid on the cupola.
Mhm.
Or if our own guys can do some of the work.
Mhm.
So would
Yeah,
that be,
at this, oh, excuse me,
Go ahead,
continue, I'm sorry.
go ahead, Christine, what you have?
So at this point, it's whatever work you're doing is not considered de-letting work, it's just renovation work.
Right,
So you're right, you can have your contractor do the work, it's renovation, not de-letting.
so that brings us to the point, we are in compliance with the state of Mass as far as lead safe. The next step is, we'll see what Monty Tech says, but I have a good feeling.
They're gonna
that's
say no,
be-
they're gonna walk away.
So, but we really need the board as being the committee of Scouts Hall. You guys really need to come up with a plan right now on
Agreed.
moving forward.
Mhm.
Cause I don't wanna do the floors and lights and not have enough lights, or we're putting up another wall, or we need more outlets. What kind of lighting do you want? What do you plan on using it for? Cause right now, the front foyer, the original intentions were, we're gonna put 1/2-inch plywood over
Right.
that floor and put like a vinyl or a tile in that area. The main room, we're gonna try to save the hardwood floors and refurnish them. The bathroom, same thing, 1/2-inch plywood with a vinyl, something you can wash and rinse. You can't have a wooden floor in a bathroom. And that will be ADA compliant as well. So as a committee, you have time or want to set a date, we can walk through. But you really need to decide who's gonna use the space, what are you gonna use it for? And who needs what and where stuff is going. Some of the wiring's roughed out, there's not much plumbing because you just got a bathroom. And a water pipe feeding the old sink in the main room, so. Before any other work really needs to get done, we need to have a plan on what it's gonna be and how we're gonna use it. So the contractors can bid it accordingly to what you're looking for. And what monies are remaining in the funding.
Mhm.
Mr. Lamontagne, we had a design for this through our architect, if I recall correctly, when you and I did the walkthrough about 1.5 years ago.
Correct. When we went out to bid, we didn't receive any bids on that project, so.
Correct.
What Bob's looking at, and I think a good way to proceed forward. We have those plans, we could certainly use those. Especially the electrical portion of that project. Bob's more concerned, because we did discuss those. Certain places, where are the outlets gonna go? Where are all the other details for this project? Because remember, we were trying to move as fast as we could with this project. And then once we had Monty Tech go down, and then we had this tested, that's where this big hurdle came up. And then once we handled it appropriately. It took a while to go out to bid and then get the what was the holdup there? It was the license, I believe, for the de-letting, it's the de-letting work to get done. We needed to get, and that took about 2 months or so to get that. Fortunately, he got us all the information, got us everything, and he was able to go over there and do the work that had to get done. So now it's in compliance. That's a good thing. Question ultimately is, how does the board want to proceed with this? I could certainly go out to bid, put that out again. But if we don't get any bids, then we're back to where we are right now. I'm your purchasing agent for the town. I can certainly do that. Or we look at other options.
If you go according to what you originally had put out the first time. I'm not sure, I don't believe I have a copy of that, but I will make sure my contractor bids on it. Last time it just went out, I don't think I had this contractor when it went out the first time, so. I will show him the building and show him what we got, and he will bid on it. And we'll try to hopefully get a couple other bids. I mean, it's very hard for people, they're not taking on small jobs.
They're small jobs, yeah.
I mean,
That was our challenge when we had a committee that was formed. And then the committee unfortunately had to dissolve when we were
so I know,
in the midst of it all. So, yeah.
I mean, even like I'm trying to get
Small
two more
project.
prices on finished painting outside of the library, small job.
Yeah.
Way under $10,000. So I'm basically going into the yellow pages on Google and finding painters and their website and email them the link to see if we get bites, because they don't return phone calls. It's getting very hard, and we're fortunate we have somebody that's doing a lot of our work in town.
Mhm.
A local contractor. But I know you'll get at least one. The plumbing is very minimal, that's minor. The electrical. That's, like I said, if we're gonna add more outlets and stuff, it's roughed out. I did put a new service in there.
Mhm.
So it's got a little ways to go, but we gotta decide. Is this the exact way you want it to be finished? Cause I don't want to come back after and say, well, we need an outlet over here. Or I need this over here. There's not gonna be any money. You're gonna have to live with what you got. Until it gets for the following year, if you put it on capital or ask for more monies from CBG.
Is there any money sitting?
We have roughly, after this invoice, the CPC has roughly $30,000.
A chunk of change.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Vice, go ahead.
I got a question and recommendation. Christine, if we do renovation work, does that mean that we lose our lead-free status?
No, that's a good question. So if you do renovation work, your certificate of lead compliance stands. Those don't expire. So you should be just fine. You want to make sure that whoever you hire, whether it be a plumber, electrician, maybe even someone who installs flooring, you want to make sure that they're aware of the lead paint report and they see it. And that if they're disturbing greater than 6 square feet of known or assumed lead on the interior of that room, each individual room, that they use lead safe work practices. So for example, if your electrician's going in there and he's cutting out outlet boxes, if he's cutting out enough outlet boxes in known lead that equal or exceed 6 square feet, then he needs to use lead safe work practices. So you just want to make sure that your contractors know that there's lead, they have a copy of the report, and that they indeed have a lead safe renovation license. On top of their plumbing license or their electrician license, we need to know that they're licensed lead safe renovators. So we're adding another license, we're adding another thing to the mix. But your certificates don't expire.
Great.
Hopefully that answers the question.
It does. We just got to be careful and understand, be very mindful of those considerations of square footage and otherwise.
Right.
So to the rest of the board, what I would recommend is that the base document, the architecture document that we have from Andrew, let's use that, come up with a phased work plan. And unless Bob thinks that, a potential rebid could could be captured by new vendors, but if not, we'll come up with a phased bid option where we'd get plumbing and electrical done, or basically partition it out to say our estimate for phase 1 is going to be $26,000 with the contingency or otherwise, or $19,000 with the contingency, but very mindful that we're not going to get everything done with the remaining money. For phase 2, we go back to CPC and basically, lay out our case to say, this is what is remaining. This will take us to completion, but we need a little bit more to bring us the rest of the way. I would hope if we do go to a phased program that we only have 2 phases and only have to ask for extra money for a phase 2. Does that make sense?
Yeah, your next thing would be doing your floors and finishing up your final touches in the big room and the bathrooms and the hallway. There's a wall that's partially framed, but it needs more sheetrock or bond boards, whatever we decide we're gonna put on it. You'll be adding new material and won't be removing any existing material with lead paint. And then you could combine the plumbing and electrical in the next phase on the
Love
finish.
it. Yep. I was hoping you were going to say that, some kind of prioritization or a smart way to go forward. Thank you for that, Bob.
Yeah, dominoes in a line.
Interesting, we had our seniors in there. When was do we know the last year that building that the town owns was occupied?
Oh, way before I was here.
23.
I was gonna say, it was what?
I was being facetious. I said 1823.
I thought, because I don't think it was not that long ago. So it's interesting to see, and when I see the lead-free, your unit is not lead-free, but it also, you have 3 different things on this form that states, it has a little lead left behind. It has some lead, and it has a lot of lead left behind. So when they went into de-lead, it sounds like we still have a lot of lead left behind.
Mhm.
So that confuses me. What did we pay them?
The de-leading is removing all the lead. What we did was made it lead safe, so.
Lead safe, okay.
So they came in, they scraped all the loose paint,
Oh my
they
God,
stripped
we were
down the
all in
window
there.
sills to bare wood
Mhm.
as the scope of work presented by Christine. Everything got a coat of paint, so everything's tight, nothing's loose. The dust is cleaned up, so it is a safe environment.
Right. Thank you for that explanation. I was curious about that.
Christine, correct me if I'm wrong. I heard you say, since we don't really know what's on the exterior without removing siding, it's really not feasible to say that it is lead-free.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, we don't know what's under the vinyl siding.
Right, thank
Or
you
the
for that.
Behind the
chalkboards.
chalkboards,
Or yeah.
the original chalkboards.
Yeah, exactly. I think the chalkboards themselves tested fine, but the frames around them might have been lead.
Yeah, which they painted, so.
Yeah,
They sprayed and
Painted,
painted.
so they're tightened in.
Yeah, thank
yeah,
you for that.
exactly. So everything passed. It's lead safe. So we're in good shape with that. That's one thing you can check off the list. That's nice.
Yeah,
And as you said, this is something controlled by Department of Public Health, and they're the ones that put the oversized font to draw attention.
Exactly, exactly. Yep. I asked them if I could make that a little smaller, and that didn't go over very well. So
Well, thank you for asking.
yeah, it's a little alarming, but right. Oh,
That was
Mr.
one of the
Chair.
immediate things as I was looking through the package in preparation. I was like,
yeah.
wow, they really want us to see this statement.
yes, exactly.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Rice.
did the rest of the board think that way forward made sense and it is workable?
Phases? In phases?
If possible, I mean,
Yeah.
so I would make a motion that the DPW director and Adam succinctly come up with a possible phased approach to carry out the remainder of the construction proposed and either go out to bid with the first phase or come back to the board with a proposed second phase and recommended fund request for CPC.
Mr. Vice, if I may, speak before you take a vote. I would strongly recommend let me bring that contractor and have him price out what he thinks it's gonna cost to do the floors and the cabinets and finish up the finishings in the building. Because if we're gonna be above 30, I mean, then we'll know what we're looking for. I don't wanna go out to bid and not have the money, and not able to finish it. I think that'll be embarrassing, but
I do too. I
I
agree with you
understand,
on
but
that.
I mean, my motion basically sets it up so you and the town administrator work on a proposed phased approach. If you come back and say, I can do this in one phase if I go back to CPC to get the money. So you basically working with Adam, you either come up with first phase and put that out to bid and then come back to us, with the recommended amount that we would go to CPC for. And that would carry it out. I understand what you're saying, but my motion that wasn't seconded yet would basically do that, as you and Adam would control what would happen next and
Okay.
be able to decide what phases there were, if there was going to be only one because it was too expensive, or two, and then you'd come back to us to talk about the second one.
Yep.
So to clarify, Mike, it gives Adam and Bob permission to do what Bob suggested and get quotes.
If I can. Tim's right. We already have plans for this.
This is already in motion.
From the architect. So what we'll do, Mike's suggestion, I think, is appropriate because we have $30,000 in there. So Bob and I will determine of the architect's work he already did, what we do to get that, as much of that done as possible within that amount, and then go out to bid for that. I think that's something between the two of us we could do. And then I'll just have to edit the documents that we put out the bid to have it related to the work that we identified. And then the other phase we would do later. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you would have to change the scope of work, working with the money that we're trying to work with, which is 30,000. So if he has to take something out, or if we can do it all in that finishing stage for 30 grand, then we'll just put it out to bid. And then we'll come back with the second phase.
Well, I certainly understand the intent of what you're suggesting, Mike. My gut is telling me we need to be cautious how we tread here to make sure we're not violating chapter 30 and we're not circumventing a bidding process. And I don't think we are, but I just want to make sure we're dotting all the i's, crossing all the t's. It's easier to avoid a problem
Or create one,
versus create one. Yeah.
which was the case early on with this project,
Yes.
unfortunately. I would second Mike's motion. And at the same time, though, I agree with Bob that we should also bring this conversation back to our board. Maybe do a walkthrough, whatever you think is necessary for the board members to review in regards to that building, and make a final decision, final vote on how we're going to utilize it. Otherwise, you're going to put money, you're going to finish off a project, and then you're going to have a war on your hands. I guarantee that's going to happen in this town with that particular building. We need to know what we're utilizing it for, and we need to have a firm vote, and we need to have it on record prior to finishing off the project. Would you disagree, Bob? I'm not sure.
It definitely helps.
It helps you plan how you're gonna finalize phase 1 or phase 2 or phase 5. That should be before you even go out to bid with your papers.
I mean,
So we should bring that back to the,
I don't know if if we finish, should we do everything according to the plan from the architect, which is fine, but that's what you're gonna get. You can't
and
come
that's what
back
you're
and
gonna
say,
get.
Boy, we could use some petitions in this corner for something,
And trust me, they will.
or extra lighting, or rail over here. I mean.
Can't do that.
This, you wanna.
So we should just finalize the project.
I wanna be one
make
and
the
done,
decision
not
after.
have a plan.
Okay.
Adam, do you need that motion, or do you think you could still accomplish that?
I would have to go through and get, because I don't believe with the 30,000 we have there. And before we even ran into this matter, I was concerned about not having enough in that account to do all the work that the architect identified.
All I'm saying is, let's try and get something done with what money we have left. And then phase 2, we should try and take, go the rest of the distance by going to CPC for another 10, 20, 30,000. I don't know what it's going to take. That's why my motion basically allowed you and Bob to figure that out.
Right.
But to be on the
That's why I
safe
supported
side,
that motion.
but to be on the safe side, we want the facts first.
We
Then
just got
vote.
them. Right here.
Yeah, the
No, I
architect's
mean, the
report.
facts is cost, the next step. We want everything, all our ducks in a row to say, this is what we're gonna get for our $30,000 to the public. This is what we're gonna get, this is what we're agreeing on, and this is what we're voting on. The $30,000.
Yeah,
Is that what
we're
we're,
gonna reach out. I'm gonna get a feel of what we're looking at as far as monies that we have remaining. And see if it's gonna be within the ballpark.
and decide what phase one is gonna
If
be
they
and
have
bring
to
it
cut
back,
stuff.
then we have a vote. We have,
If it's 34,000, I have to cut back on $4,000 worth of work. We'll use that 30,000 to get to that point.
so no motion is necessary for that then? They can go out and do that?
It's already been made and seconded.
Correct.
Yeah.
We're waiting on a vote,
Motion has been made in second. This
and it has a second on Mike,
this
because
is
I
a-
understand where Mike's going and how Mike's going through this. We're dotting our i's and we're crossing our t's on this one. So I support Mike's motion on what he's requesting that go forward
Yeah,
from
I
this point.
I just want to give Bob and Adam the tools that they need
Right.
to, yeah, expend the rest of the money that they have, even if it, if it doesn't, if they only figure out that they're going to spend $20,000 of that because
Already
that's the way it's going to fit, that's the way it's going to fit, then fine, then we can go to the CP&C and say, we spent all we can. This is what we need to get the rest of the work done. I just want to give the tools to the people that are going to do this for us. Holly, do you need to rephrase or are you good?
I think I'm good.
All right, thanks. You're the best.
Verbally, it's all set. Verbally, verbally, what Mike proposed is
Yeah.
covered.
I mean, it'll all work as long as it's within cost and we get a bid.
Like a yes vote isn't, but if we all vote yes, we're not gonna get slapped with an MGL violation or something.
No, we're working with the $30,000 remaining.
You're
and
working with monies that was
Already-
already voted by
Bingo.
and allocated and
Yep.
appropriated for this
Exactly.
project.
We're
So
just
we're-
gonna figure out how far can we get with the
Got it.
30,000, that'll go out to rebid.
I thought,
another of the projects we need to bring to the finish line.
yeah, I thought it was that simple, but,
It is that simple, honestly, it is.
okay, good.
Any other discussion, team?
No, sir.
Hearing none, we'll bring this to a vote. Ms. Griffiths,
Absolutely, yes.
Ms. Richard,
Yes,
Mr. Curry,
Yes,
I vote yes as well. Thank you, team.
Thank you.
thanks, Christine.
Thank you,
thank you
Bob.
for the update, Bob.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Christine.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you
hanging
very
in
much.
with us.
Thanks for hanging in. I hope you had an entertaining evening tonight.
It was very fun. Thank you.
This brings us up to board member administrator comments and reports. Let's go first.
Thank you, sir. I'm all set.
All set, thank you.
Lamontagne.
I'm all set as well, Mr. Chair.
Mike,
Yeah, I just, here I am in Chicago. Sorry, team. If I could ask for that agenda item for next time, just to talk about select board communications and social media. I still want to have that discussion. Probably won't have any, I just want a discussion, no motions or anything like that. And then the other thing, not really, it's not me saying it to the board. I'm just saying it because we're televised and otherwise. I hope the community, when approached for signatures for whatever elected office, I want the community to make sure that they understand and ask questions to the people that are walking around with nomination papers. It's important. It's really important to do that, and that those certifying signatures are placed on there, not haphazardly, but with care, thought, and diligence. I don't have any visibility of who has pulled paper or otherwise, other than, maybe possibly some rumors. I'm not on social media, so I really don't hear a lot of those discussions. But I just want to make sure that people are asking questions, in that there's a meme that I see from time to time, and it says, government is serious business for serious people. what we do, I don't look at this as a waste of my time or otherwise. It's really serious business. I very much care about the community. I care about the products and even the words that we say, because everything, our facial expressions, our characterizations, our discourse and deliberation, it matters to the community. And I don't want to lose their trust. I don't want to lose their trust because somehow someone gets through the cracks and it sits on an elected board that does not have that same kind of love of process and duty. I understand that people have agendas, people get upset about things, and they want to sit on the board committee or whatever they're going into. They want to sit on there because they want to make change or they're upset about something. If that I'll accept that as well, but just make sure that the people that are putting them there understand what that agenda is prior to signing or voting. Mr. Chair, that's all I have this evening.
Thank you for that. Now we'll go last. Team, we've had a very productive meeting tonight. Thank you. We've had some interesting discussions. Thank you for that. Mike, to your point, yes, I understand. I don't know who has done everything as well with what's going on with our upcoming elections. Full disclosure, I have pulled my papers. I do intend to run and hopefully regain my seat. That'll all be decided at the ballot box, but I'm doing my part. And I'm hoping I've shown everybody my resolve, my commitment to the community and trying to get things moving forward and continuing them moving forward.
I'd gladly sign your paper, mister.
Me too.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Any seconds, team? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
I have a motion and a second. Any discussions? Right to the vote. Ms. Griffiths,
yes.
Ms. Richard,
Yes.
Mr. Curry,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well.